Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty was another highly anticipated game release, which finally came out in November 2001. The game by Hideo Kojima impressed as well with its stealth-like gameplay and immersive storyline, and meeting universal and critical acclaim, with Electronic Games Monthly giving it 38.5 out of 40. Hideo would continue with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater in November 2004, acting as a prequel to the original games, having you this time set in a jungle, which was also a great game in the series. Cambridge, Massachusetts development house Harmonix, meanwhile, which are better known today for their Guitar Hero and Rock Band games, would release their first game in November 2001 called Frequency. This had you control your way through an octagonal tube as you press the buttons in time to the music. Easier to play than explain, it was an underrated gem for music lovers that should be tracked down and played. In March 2003, Harmonix would return with a brilliant Amplitude, impressing even more with a rhythm action game. Santa Monica-based developer Naughty Dog Software, which are better known today for their Uncharted games, meanwhile, would release another platforming mascot for Sony after their hugely popular Crash Bandicoot games. Released in December 2001, with the game being called Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. This took all that was great about games by Rare, such as Banjo-Kazooie, and ran with it, utilising the power of the PS2 hardware. A sequel to the game would follow in October 2003, called Jak 2. This changed the gameplay considerably, with more emphasis now on a morph gun, being more of a shooter than a platformer, and it was another major hit. Jak 3 would be released in November 2004, offering even more platform adventuring. Finally, a spin-off titled Jak X would be released in 2005, offering an enjoyable combat racer. SCE Studios Liverpool, meanwhile, which were formerly known as Psygnosis, would release their Wipeout Fusion game in February 2002. This offered a great enjoyable follow-up to the fantastic series. In March 2002, meanwhile, the world was treated to a marvellous RPG Kingdom Hearts game, joining the talents of Final Fantasy and Square veterans such as Tetsuya Nomura and the licensing characters of Disney. It was a wonderful combination, offering gamers a compelling backstory that seamlessly incorporated many Disney cartoon stars without feeling forced. A spin-off sequel was done on the Game Boy Advance in 2004 called Chain of Memories, but it would be December 2005 before the PlayStation 2 saw its first true sequel called Kingdom Hearts 2, which impressed even more, being larger in scope and with many of the niggles that critics had raised from the first, such as camera, being sorted out in the second. Relatively new development studio called Sucker Punch Productions, who are better known today for their infamous games on the PS3, would release the brilliant Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, which used flat cell texture techniques of games like Wacky Racers, but incorporated it into a full 3D platform adventure, but mixing in stealth as well. The game was critically praised at the time, although the game's shortlist was highlighted, but commercially many missed out on this wonderful game as it got lost in a myriad of other high-profile games being released. Still, it was popular enough to have a sequel in September 2004 called Sly 2 Band of Thieves, which continued the adventures of our favourite raccoon thief. The following year, in September 2005, they would release Sly 3 Honor Amongst Thieves. This was, in my opinion, the best of the series, and I, for one, cannot wait for the next instalment currently being made by them for the PlayStation 3. In October 2002, Timesplitters 2 was released, being the much anticipated follow-on from the first brilliant launch game. This time it offered even more madcap characters and levels for you to shoot in. So if ever you feel the desire to be a monkey with a machine gun, then now finally it would be your chance. In March 2005 there would be a third game in the series called Timesplitters Future Perfect, which on release upped the monkey quota even more and improved the game to almost perfection, with the title being the ultimate multiplayer shooter for those with a sense of humour. The following month, Insomniac Games, who had made a name for themselves releasing Spyro the Dragon games, would release not one, but two platforming heroes for their next game, Ratchet and Clank. What made the game so great was its emphasis on weapons as opposed to the usual up-close jump mechanics. The game was well received at the time, and Ratchet and Clank would quickly become the main mascots for the PlayStation 2. A sequel, Ratchet and Clank Goes Commando, would quickly follow in November the 11th, 2003, improving the game even more, with Insomniac ironing out all the bugs and issues of the first game. The following year, in 2004, would see another sequel, with Ratchet and Clank 3, Up Your Arse Now, which added even more weaponry and levels to the game, making it a massive stonker of a game. But one of the biggest innovations for the PS2 came with the peripheral iToy, released on the 5th of March 2003. The device essentially was a webcam, but through clever design by American inventor Richard Marks, it allowed the PS2 games to not only display you in the game, but track your motions as well. At the time of release, such innovations were extraordinary, and it was the beginning of motion control gaming that was to come. Dragon Quest VIII, meanwhile, would be released in November 2004, thankfully showing that the PlayStation hadn't just become a machine for the casual gamer. It had been years since the last one in the series had been released, way back on the PlayStation all those years ago, but the time had been well spent on this sequel, with a glorious looking 2D cel-shade RPG by developer Level 5, who are better known today for the Professor Layton games. And for those unfamiliar with the Dragon Quest fantasy world, then I can heartily recommend this as a great introduction into that universe and its wonderful delights. Gods of War, meanwhile, was released in March 2005, which had you play the immensely cool Kratos as he kicks 7 shades out of all the Greek mythological beasties that Hades can hurl at him. And in this all-out action platformer, it really showed the true graphical grunt of the PlayStation 2 and what it was capable of, like never before. The game was critically loved by gamers across the board, and it really gave a compelling reason why gamers shouldn't jump ship to the next gen quite yet. A sequel was released in March 2007 that did the impossible in an impressive feat of improving almost every facet of the original game, and it's well worth tracking down these games and having a go if you missed out on this series first time around. The following month, in November, Guitar Heroes would be released by Harmonix and Red Octane. The game was a blatant rip-off of Konami's arcade hit Guitar Freaks, but by cleverly redesigning the look and feel, Harmonix was able to get the rhythm action game to finally appeal to the Western audiences. In 2006, Harmonix, who was bought out by MTV, would go and buy out Red Octane for a cool $100 million. The Guitar Hero games have since gone on to mass commercial success, of sales of almost 1 billion units by the third sequel being released, and has since gone on to continued success with spin-off games such as DJ Hero and Rock Band. Not bad for a company that's done nothing more really than ransack the talented ideas of Konami's arcade back catalogue. Finally, a quick mention should go to the brilliant and beautiful game Okami by Resident Evil legend Hideki Kamiya, who would direct this beautiful and unique game where you play a wolf spirit who must paint and solve puzzles in this compelling platform adventure. In conclusion, PlayStation 2 is a marvellous machine, being by far the most successful console of all time, and that popularity allowed it a wonderful range of games for the machine, introducing many to the wonderful world of gaming. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. Look out for my next episode where we look at Nintendo's continued dominance in the portable handheld market and its attempt to take on the PlayStation 2 with the GameCube. So, until next time, see you later.